that to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting to which this certification applies, and only such business matters as were identified in the motion concerning the closed meeting were heard, discussed, considered. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion, Mr. Edwards. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second, Mr. Palmer. Roll call.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mrs. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Honeycutt?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Sturtevant?
Yes. At this time, we're going to stand for a pledge of allegiance and a moment of silence.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this time, we're going to have the superintendent's report and information items. Mr. Nichols.
Thank you, Mr. Sturtevant, members of the board. First of all, our first item on the agenda tonight is looking at the middle and high school fee schedules, and I'm going to ask Ms. Height if she would be available to come up and give a presentation.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, board members, Mr. Nichols. Tonight, for information only, I would like to share with you the Mecklenburg County Public School fee schedule for the 2016-17 school year. If you will please review this, and we would need to take a vote on this next month, so it is just for information. I will let you know that the only changes to the fee schedule included the art fees for the middle school, and in the art fee for the high school, we increased them to $10. And then we also added on the bottom a transcript fee of $3 because there was some inconsistency with that throughout our school divisions, so we felt that it would be just much easier to put it on here, and that way everyone would know the fee right up front. Are there any questions?
Questions, board members?
None.
None? Thank you.
Thank you.
Second item on the agenda is the reimbursement resolution. Basically, as we're at the end of the year, there are several items that we have grants to pay for, but we have to put the money up to begin with. And so we are reimbursing our school system from our school system, so therefore it's technicality. But in this case, several grants you put together, particularly in the area of technology, classroom multimedia network computers, internet-ready local area network capability, and instructional software. So we would be, it's a reimbursement of our own school systems to pay ourselves $350,000.
Thank you.
Then it comes down to my comments, and basically, as far as comments go, I know we've just, since our last board meeting, had our own graduation. And again, I want to just congratulate all of the seniors. We had great graduation ceremonies at both Bluestone and at Parkview. I'm thankful for all of you that were able to attend and for all of the people in the community that have been supporting the graduations this year. I also want to bring up that we have a lot of students that are involved in many different summer activities, from our Century 21 grant summer school programs to other summer school activities and camp activities. Our cyber camp is going to begin very soon. We're very excited about that and the opportunities that that's going to bring to our students. We have many of the businesses and civic organizations that are providing opportunities for our students as well as churches. Our goal is to be able to take those informal learning activities and find more and more ways to give students credit and to promote those opportunities for the students where they're learning in very real ways and help them to see the actual academic and career information that's in them and give them support for it. So I applaud all of the churches and civic groups and summer activities that are going on, and encourage parents to get their students involved in those. Other reading activities that we know are going on through the summer. because there's a time gap that so often students lose what they've learned from one year to the next, and we want to try to keep those things going. I also want to say, give a big thank you on behalf of the school system and the board to all of the organizations that contributed significant amounts of monies towards scholarships for our students that are moving on beyond high school. I was able, and I know many of you were as well, to participate in the award ceremonies, and you look at students and you just see how much they've been able to gather as they prepare to go on with their lives, and it's really rewarding to have the various clubs and organizations from each of the different towns contributing so heavily to those, and we want to say thank you to all of them. Other than that, we have a few things that we need to report to vote on, but it's short this time because it's June. But that's no indication of our being anything but busy, because it has been a full month of June, and we will be having another meeting to finalize things at the end of this month on the 27th. So, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols. I'm going to pass on the chairman's remarks and move on to the committee reports. A, Joint Education Capital Improvement Committee.
We do have a report on capital improvements that are taking place from our Director of Maintenance.
Good evening, board members, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Nichols. On June 13th, we took a list, a very descriptive list of the capital improvement items that we had deemed we wanted funding for, and requested from the Board of Supervisors that the funding be reallocated for those projects. I've come to you tonight, and I'm very pleased and very excited to announce that funding for all the capital improvement projects that we submitted and requested was approved, and we're in the process of beginning work as early as Wednesday on some of these projects. These all have been, the very descriptive list that we went over with the Board of Supervisors has been uploaded to board docs. If y'all have any questions, please just feel free to email me, call me, catch me to the side. I'll be glad to go over any of them with you.
Great. Questions? If not, thank you.
Thank you.
Next report, Finance Committee.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the Finance Committee met this afternoon, and it was a long meeting. Lots of reading with requests for proposals for cleaning supplies and school audits, and we also reviewed the bills, and those bills we made several recommendations to approve the bills, to pay them this evening as they were submitted. And anybody else on the Finance Committee with me? Mr. Edwards, is there anything you'd like to add to our Finance Committee report?
Smooth as silk.
Oh, yes. With your help. That's it.
Thank you, Ms. Bailey. Thank you for the extra work you put in with that committee, along with you, Mr. Edwards, and Mr. Honeycutt. We're going to continue on to item C, Gifted and Talented Special Ed Health and Family Committee.
There's no report for that, and I don't see Gary Cyphers here, so there's no report for the CT Career Committee that I know of either.
Thank you, Mr. Ritchie. We will pass item D and go on to the Athletics and Discipline Committee. There is nothing to report with the Athletics and Discipline Committee. At this point, Madam Clerk, we're going to move to public input. Do we have anyone signed up?
Yes.
Okay.
At this time, matters may be publicly brought to the attention of the board and administration. Public comments at board meetings are just one of the many avenues for communication, and the board recognizes and appreciates the importance of input from and communication with the public we represent. The public is invited to sign up to speak prior to the beginning of the meeting. The clerk of the school board will write down your name, contact information, and topic that you wish to speak about. The public is allowed up to 6 minutes at most meetings to express their views. Please respect that time limitation. It will be enforced. Please understand that it may not be possible to immediately respond to questions. As a reminder, it is inappropriate at a public meeting to make personal attacks, to be defamatory, or to disparage individuals or identifiable groups. Again, we welcome and appreciate your input. Prior to beginning your comment, please state your name to the board. Mr. Callis?
Thank you. I'm Kem Callis. I'm the town manager in South Hill, Virginia. I apologize for my voice. It's allergy season. Mr. Chairman and members of the board, and Mr. Nichols, I want to thank you for the opportunity to chat with you tonight. Several people have asked me to come and speak with you, and thank you for that, and thank you for your service. I know your job is a tough one. First thing I'd like to do is I'd like to clear the air, and I'm not sure where the us versus them and the east versus west rhetoric started. It could have been a poor choice of words. It could have been a misinterpretation or a misunderstanding. It could have been anything. But I want you to know that I work with the leaders of Clarksville and Chase City on a regular basis, and our prayers go out to Mr. Reese's family and the folks in Chase City. And we talk about a variety of issues. And we get along really well, and we work together well, and we try to do things that are in the best interest of all of our communities and the county. And in my days when I volunteered to coach at Parkview, volleyball and girls softball, I had the opportunity to work some with Kevin Seeley, who did great things at the Bluestone volleyball program, and Alvin Johnson and others that worked with the Bluestone softball program. And our kids attended each other's clinics, and we worked well together. And while we did have a rivalry on the ball field, it was a healthy rivalry, and it made us all better. So I'd like to point that out. Now, I know you have received resolutions of one sort or another, and I'm not going to bore you with that. I brought one, but I don't want to read it. I really want to speak from here and here. And what I can tell you without reservation is that the town manager of South Hill and the Town Council of South Hill and the South Hill Community Development Association, and I feel strongly that the Chamber Board feels, is all we want is for our school facilities to be the best they can be for all of our students, all of them, no matter where they live. And that goes in hand with what's best for our communities. They do work together. From everything that we have heard or read or researched, we strongly feel that a middle school and a high school on each end of our county, 2 campuses, are what's best, and they will offer equal education opportunities for all of our students. And that's what we want. And we feel that way for several reasons. Number one is safety. The longer the drive, the longer the trip, the longer our kids have to be on the road going back and forth to school, the greater the risk presented. You know, logic and statistics will tell us that. And the second safety thing is social issues. I think that what you will find is that the larger numbers are going to lead to larger problems and more frequent problems, whether it be drugs or gangs or any other thing. The second thing is learning and participation opportunities, whether it's academics, athletics, forensic activities, whatever it may be, whether we already have it or whether we want to offer it, we'll be able to offer more opportunity to more kids if we have 2 schools. The third thing I'd like to mention is economics. We just heard Mr. Nichols talk about Century 21 and the scholarships that various clubs offer. We have organizations that visit our elementary school kids and do lunch buddies, a lot of things that tie our schools to our communities. We do not want to lose that. I will be the first to admit that the businesses in South Hill benefit by having Parkview High School right next to our town limits. And I think that Parkview High School would tell you the same thing. They benefit, or it benefits, by having the town of South Hill and those businesses close by. Having that school close to us is extremely important for economic and business development purposes. It is a valuable, valuable tool. We don't want to lose that. And I don't think the school wants to lose the assistance that our businesses provide.
You're at 1 minute.
Thank you. Without our schools, our tax base is going to erode. And if our tax base erodes and our businesses leave, what will happen then? I understand you have a difficult choice. Our recommendation is 2 campuses, one on each end of the county, and I know it's hard to do, but I ask you to consider the things beyond curriculum. Consider the community and the business factors too. Let's build 2 schools that serve all the kids in our county, and let's make those schools just dazzle the world. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Cameron?
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak before the board this evening. My name is Bain Cameron. My wife and I moved to Mecklenburg County about 9 years ago. My comments this evening will address the recurring county ritual of discussing facilities. I appreciate and generally concur with what would seem to be the view of the overwhelming 95% majority of my fellow citizens. If a survey responded to by 455 of the county's 36,000 residents is representative of all its citizens, that the facility needs must be addressed now. A reasonable argument could be made that we are somewhere between tardy and derelict in letting the physical plant deteriorate to its current inefficient and unreliable condition. The question is surely no longer do we need to address the facilities now, but rather how will we now address the facilities? Mr. G. Ben Taylor, a member of the steering committee, has said in a variety of fora during this process that we must get this right. I have not spoken with him about this, so I do not know what his answer key says is the right answer, or even if there is a single right answer in his mind. But I would guess that, as a former educator, he might see the need to complete the assignment before grading it. To me, it seems that at almost every step along the way, the process has been rushed and incomplete. I did not attend the final steering committee meeting. I'll say more about that in a minute. But I will be very interested to read the steering committee's final report, which surely will clearly and definitively explain how the reported consensus view unifies the strongly bifurcated opinions expressed at every stage of its now 5-month-to-the-day process. I mentioned that I did not attend the final steering committee meeting. According to the information shared at the recent community meetings and still today on the consultant's website, the announced timeline is steering committee meeting follow-up number 1 will be on Thursday, June the 9th. You might imagine my surprise when I picked up a local paper from Wednesday, June the 8th, the day before the announced meeting, and read an article about the final meeting held the day prior, Tuesday, June the 7th. I found it helpful to peruse relevant materials made available through the consultant's website. For example, the input from the school staff. We see, if you go to their website, in the response from 180 of the staff of 4 secondary schools, but only 8 from Bluestone Middle School. Perhaps there was a snow day that canceled the faculty meeting at which the survey link would have been distributed. In any case, I think that a school system would find the outcome of such low participation to be far short of an acceptable standard of engagement by its staff. As educators, we would return the assignment marked incomplete, reteach the material, and provide another assessment opportunity. I doubt that we have aggregated an apathetic staff lacking in relevant and helpful insight at Bluestone Middle School, and I hope that we would not desire to disenfranchise them. Then there is the issue that the only question asked of the teachers was their building assignment. Is this incomplete? That's okay. Though more time-consuming to analyze, I have generally held that an essay question provided much more insight than forced choice answers. So let's review the individual staff comments. On the website, we see that there are 625 responses, but there were only 180 staff who responded. These are the student responses published again, not the teacher responses. Incomplete. I am sure that it will benefit the board that you have received, as I understand it today, advance copies of the steering committee's final report. When I called the county offices today, I was told not only that the report is not yet generally publicly available and that they did not know just when it would be, but also that the joint school board of supervisors meeting to receive the report has not yet been scheduled. I have been told that a vote on future facilities may be placed on the July agenda. Mr. Chairman, in setting the voting agenda for future meetings, I would ask you to reconsider whether you would ask the board to take action on such an issue with only a single opportunity for the public to address the board before a July vote. I doubt that all of those who would wish to speak before you will be available on July 18. I have been told that a fourth leg to the three-legged stool was cobbled in or sledgehammered in after the beginning of the final steering committee meeting. That consideration was called strategic planning by one individual who attended the meeting and long-term strategic goals in a press report. I searched the county website for these and found nothing. When I called the county offices this afternoon requesting information on the strategic plan of the county, I was transferred to a line that rang for over 30 minutes but was never answered. I hope it is not true, but unfortunately, such a document is said to not exist. Incomplete or worse. I hope that this board, in performing due diligence, will be willing to return this work to the joint board and the steering committee as incomplete. Some of the individuals who serve in those groups and on the Board of Supervisors are products of the Mecklenburg County Public Schools.
You're
I-
at 1 minute.
Thank you. I hope that this division would not accept a spotty, inconsistent report from a student. As you proclaim high standards for the students in our classrooms, I ask that you not forsake high expectations of your alumni. Insist that they represent the county schools well in our community and the world, and as role models for our youth, insist that they set a standard of excellence worthy of our lofty expectations of our students. Perhaps I will be surprised when I obtain and read the current report. I hope so. Otherwise, use your role as the educational standard bearers of the county to grade their effort incomplete. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Thompson?
I will not disappoint you by saying something profound, okay? I don't have anything really profound to say. I will tell you that I was a part of the steering committee, and I've heard these two men speak. And I hear so much of what they're saying. I totally do. I started on this committee, pretty much mind made up, that we needed to have two different schools. And then I realized with the need, if I'm not going to go in with an open mind and an open heart and really listen, because I entered that committee by no means knowing all. And as a surprise to some of you, I still don't know all. However, I was quite educated with the over 36 hours that was spent by the committee members, the diligence that was done, that's seated hours and meeting hours. It was over 36. And then the due diligence that was done once they got home. Now, I'm going to tell you, it was one of the fastest, one of the roughest roller coaster rides I've ever been in, for me personally. I'd go home from one meeting, no way in the world we could not have one school. Go home from another meeting, we've got to have two schools. And then in the final analysis of listening and weighing everything as it came up, folks, I understand that it seems like it was rushed. But was it 30 years ago that the Department of Education said that this needed to be done? I mean, I think any slower movement would be reversed. The thing of it is, there's got to be a decision made. Are 100% of the members of Mecklenburg County going to be excited about it? No. However, we are one county, and we should be one voice. In looking at traditional education that we've been used to here since the Eisenhower administration when the buildings were put up, in fact, I was born during Eisenhower's administration, a lot of good things came along. But a lot of those things are wearing out, too. Not me. Folks, education is not what it was when I was graduating from Parkview in 1975. We have some very progressive leaders, not only on our school board, but in our schools, in our administrations, in our teaching capacities. And I am longing for new ways to reach my kids that are absolutely, some of them, bored out of their wits with the same old routine that we are limited to in the same limited facilities, in the same limited mindset. Folks, transportation is brought up a lot, and that was one of my really big key issues. I drove my granddaughter to the community college today to do a dual enrollment test. You know, it's not exactly next door. Do we not transport students to the community college every day? And then as I came with the understanding of 21st century learning and finding out that not only are we going to have like 3,000 kids on campus, which every time I thought about it, man, I was just like, wouldn't even let my feelings be fulfilled because I was afraid of them. Folks, it's not going to be under one pavilion. We're talking about spreading them over 100 acres. My Lord, you can grow a lot of crops that way. And this is our crop tomorrow. We're going to reap our harvest from these children. These children are going to bring the economic development that my generation and the next generations have not been able to bring. And I am not demeaning any work that's been done with economic development. We've done wonderfully. But however, I do believe that the Board of Supervisors has finally heard that the people don't mind paying for what they get. They've finally gotten up off it, said it very nicely, and willing to put a little bit of tax revenue in here so that we can do something. Folks, it's sad when you look at the statistics, and our region is in our region, we're number one in ability to pay for, and yet last in paying. We can put the most beautiful buildings up anywhere. And if we don't finance what's going on the inside with the curriculum and the personnel, then what have we done? Folks, I'm here to say that after much deliberation, and that fourth leg of the stool, I do want to point out that fourth leg of the stool came in at the end, but it was not factored into the overall. I told you I wasn't going to take 6 minutes. I lied. But that fourth leg was not factored into the final count. Okay. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone else?
That's it.
Just so it's clear, it had been said before, in order to speak, you have to sign up before a meeting. That is not the case. Any citizen has an opportunity to sign up at any point, to include right now. If there's anyone else that would like to speak on any issue, you can come up and have your 6 minutes.
I can't finish under another one.
No.
Hi, I'm Ellen Walker. I am a resident of Mecklenburg County. I live in Boydton, Virginia. I want to thank the board for doing a very difficult job in picking something that's 30 years old, and Holly, probably some of you are just barely past 30. You're not like I am, a couple of years past 30, but we are one county. It doesn't make any difference what school you go to. When you go to college, depending on the school, you're going to be with 3,000 to 5,000 people or more. Think of the University of Virginia. Think of the University of Richmond. Think of VCU, Rutgers. Anywhere you go, there is going to be a large population of freshmen coming from all over the world, and they're going to be as scared as the next person. My granddaughter in May, graduated from the University of William and Mary Law School. In her law class, there were 20 students or more who were foreign students who went back to their country because they paid for them to come here. So not only does she have to compete against the ones that are sitting next to her, she has to compete against the ones who are foreign students, the ones who are at William and Mary, Washington and Lee, University of Virginia, wherever. But her basic thing is, this is what employers want. They want to know where you went to school, are you going to be a competent member of their staff? They don't care whether you come from Mecklenburg County. They don't care whether you come from Charlotte County. They want to know, do you have the background to do the job? They want to know if you're going to be on time, if you're going to be able to travel, if you're going to be able to do what they request you to do. The building is not going to make a difference. If you have a class that requires a master's degree to teach it, then the teacher should have a master's degree. If you have a class that needs a bachelor's degree, then you need a bachelor's degree in that specialty, not because somebody likes the program, not because it was a minor and you can't find anybody else to teach it. We all start at number one, and we continue. So I'm hoping, with all that's said and done, that when you look at this, that you're looking at the education of the children, not necessarily the building. I have 2 grandchildren. One graduated from Bluestone. He is also at ODU. He's a senior. That depends on if he changes his major this year. But they all started in kindergarten. They had to build a foundation. And they got great foundations in Mecklenburg County schools. The only thing is that if you spend money on one, you have to spend it on the other. And I understand if you have businesses and things, but I also understand that if you're in the community, does that mean that if I live on this side of the county, I can't go to South Hill and get a loan at CCB Bank? Will they not give me a loan because I want to buy a house in Boynton? Or, you know, we're on the internet. If the commercial people are looking on the internet and seeing what's going on in the county, have a multidisciplinary and multicultural business group, are they going to come to Mecklenburg County anyway if Mecklenburg County can't work together and provide for their families as well as their students, their wives, their husbands, medically, all of that. So it's not only West versus East or East, it's a joint effort. We have to make sure all our kids start with the basics and continue on. Because when you hit that freshman class in college, they could care less where you come from. All they want you to do is do that work, and you got 90 people in that class that's doing the same work. And that's all they want. They don't care where you come from. So I hope you guys and ladies really think about the education. It's you know, it's a building, of course, and you want glass and bricks and whatever. But you want them to be educated, so when they hit that freshman year in college or the vocational school or wherever, that they are well prepared.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there another? If not, we're going to continue on. We're about to get into the action phase of the meeting. Action item A, that the school board approves the minutes of the regular school board meeting held on May 16, 2016. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion from Ms. Bailey. Do we have a second? Second from Mr. Palmer. Roll call.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mrs. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Honeycutt?
Abstain.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Abstain.
Mr. Sturtevant?
Yes. Action item B, that the school board approves the minutes of the special school board meeting held on May 26, 2016. Do you have a motion?
Motion approved.
Motion, Mr. Edwards. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second for Mr. Johnson. Roll call.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mrs. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Honeycutt?
Abstain.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Sturtevant?
Yes. Item C, that the school board approves the payments of the bills. Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Motion, Mr. Honeycutt. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second for Mr. Edwards. Discussion?
Finance Committee did review the bills, Mr. Chairman, and we are recommending that they be paid as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Bailey. Roll call.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mrs. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Honeycutt?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Sturtevant?
Yes. Item D, personnel, that the school board approves personnel recommendations. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion, Ms. Bailey. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second for Mr. Johnson. Roll call.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mrs. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Honeycutt?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Sturtevant?
Yes. Item E, that the school board approves the recommendation of the superintendent regarding student matter 2015-2016-03. We have a motion?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion, Mr. Edwards. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second for Mr. Palmer. Roll call.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mrs. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Honeycutt?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Sturtevant?
Yes. Item F, that the school board approves the student matter regarding student matter 2015-2016-08. We have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion, Mr. Edwards. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second for Ms. Bailey. Roll call.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mrs. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Honeycutt?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Sturtevant?
Yes. Item G, that the school board approves the student matter 2015-16-09. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion, Mr. Edwards. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second for Mr. Honeycutt. Roll call.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mrs. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Honeycutt?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Sturtevant?
Yes. Item H, that the school board approves the Title I, II, and 6 applications. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Motion, Ms. Bailey. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second for Mr. Johnson. Roll call.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mrs. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Honeycutt?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Sturtevant?
Yes. Item I, that the school board approves RFB 2017-02, School Activity Fund Audit Contract, be awarded to, at this point, from the Finance Committee. Do we have a recommendation?
Yes, Mr. Sturman, we recommend that Cradle Jones and Alga be awarded that.
Okay, that the,
That's J. Did you go right to J and overlook?
we're on I.
Yes. We were recommending that that be postponed until next meeting.
Okay. Well,
This was activity fund?
this activity fund.
This was the Activity Fund
Okay.
audit.
This
Right.
is D.
Line item D.
It says
After-
D.
It goes from H to D.
Yeah. Personnel is D as well. Well, school activity fund audit, we received 2 bids,
Yes.
and we
Approve
made a
those amendments.
recommendation.
Okay, excuse me, I'm looking at. Motion to approve? Paper.
Second.
Okay.
That's okay, that's fine.
The name of the audit is going to be, are we going to defer?
No, we're going with the school audit.
Yes.
To do that. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the page rather than online, and it got updated from my eye.
Okay. And Ms. Bailey, the name?
It was Cradle Jones and Alva.
Okay. That the school board approves the RFP 2017-02 School Activity Fund Audit Contract be awarded to Cradle Jones and Alga. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion from Mr. Edwards and a second from Mr. Honeycutt. Roll call.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mrs. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer? Yes. Mr. Honeycutt?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Sturtevant?
Yes. Board members, looking at the action, have we excluded any action item that you see on your board docs that I do not see?
Did we cover H, which is Title I, Title II, and Title IV?
We
Yes.
just
Yes.
did,
We
yeah.
did?
Title
Okay.
VI, yes.
I mean, 6, I went and slept through that one. Go ahead.
Okay. Moving on to agenda preparation. June 27th, special school board meeting. July 4th, Independence Day, office closed. July 15th, regular finance committee meeting at 4 p.m. And July 18th, the regular school board meeting, which this board is going to have to reschedule. There are several board members that I believe is going to be in training. Board members, as you look at your calendar for the July date, do we have a recommendation as to what the new date is going to be for the month of July?
What days are they in training?
We are
18th and
gone the
19th.
18th and the 19th.
Will you be back the 19th, the night of the 19th?
I think we'll probably be done like at 3, but then we have to travel. Who knows?
Okay.
Have it at 9 o'clock, be all right?
Do we want to
No.
push it off on the 20th?
I'm good with the 20th.
The 20th is Wednesday. Okay?
That's not real good for me, but
It's not?
I work that night.
Okay, let's shoot for the 19th. And we can start at 19th at 7. That give you enough travel time?
We're going to start closed session at 7? Or we're going to start at 6 like we?
We can start closed session at 6. You think that will give you enough time for travel to get back?
Well, we'll make it happen.
Okay. The general consensus, the next school board meeting in July is going to be July 19th, closed session starting at 6 p.m. At this point, we're going to move into board member remarks. Ms. Bailey.
Yes, our finance committee meeting is still then scheduled for July 15th. Is that okay with everybody, or it would be kind of impossible to do it on that Tuesday because of travel and getting back early enough to make that happen, so.
The school board offices are closed.
The school board office is closed on the 15th, so we need can we get the bills posted in time to have it on the 14th, which is the Thursday the 14th? We can do that?
What
So,
time? 4 o'clock, Mrs. Bailey?
I think 4 would be fine if that's okay with everybody. So we'll move our finance committee meeting then from July 15th to July 14th at 4 o'clock.
Okay.
And just remember to look at those bills a little bit ahead of time. So we're moving to board member remarks.
Yes, just so that, Mr. Nichols, we can advertise it out July 14th at 4 p.m. for the Finance Committee meeting, July 19th at 6 p.m.
Thank you, sir.
All right, Ms. Bailey, board member remarks.
Yes, I just want to thank everyone for coming out tonight, especially those who stepped to the podium and had some words of encouragement and wisdom for us. Please know that we're listening, and we need a lot of discernment in the next few weeks, knowing that this is a very important decision for our county and our future. And I'm privileged to be a part of it, and I covet your prayers, and thank you for reaching out to us, and thank you for just all the research and the soul searching that some of you have done, and I appreciate that. I also want to encourage the parents in our county to continue to encourage your children to learn every day, and don't miss an opportunity to read with them and to share a book with them, or a newspaper or a magazine, or just some activity where you value the written word and pick up a pencil and write something down. They do this really, really well. But I think with the art of conversation, live, face-to-face conversation is dying in my house anyway. And because I no longer have any children under age 13 anymore. And I'm a little sad about that. But just take the opportunities this summer. You've got more time with them now than the schools do. And make that time count and read to them as often as you can. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bailey. Mr. Ritchie.
No comments for me.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
I just want to take a few minutes to say something, and I've talked to a lot of people in my district. You know, the school, well, it's going to be one or two. I have grandchildren live on both ends of the county. Got a son and two grandchildren, and a daughter-in-law that live on Country Club Road in South Hill. And I got grandchildren and a daughter and a son-in-law that lives in Chase City. So this matter of one school or two schools is something that I haven't just made up my mind at the very beginning, because I have to take consideration that I've got grandkids on both ends of the county. So I've talked to people on that end of the county, and I've talked to my daughter-in-laws. The most important thing they want is the education, more so than the building. As long as the education's good, they don't care if it's one or two. Then I talked to a lot of people. There's a third class of people out there that we seem to forget. We got the ones that want the one school. We got the ones that want the two schools. But I meet a lot of people, they say it doesn't matter. So we sort of exclude that group. All they're concerned about is having a good education. And that's something that we need to take in mind. First of all, is the children and their education, more so than the building. And I think that if we think upon those things, we could probably give them a better education if we choose the right way to go. So we need to make that decision. I have my decision. I think pretty much everybody in the county has probably come to a conclusion now. But we really need to think on that.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Edwards.
No comment.
Mr. Palmer.
I too want to thank those of you that have approached the bench today or the podium today to speak. I am still listening. I am still listening. And I will make my decision based on what is best for the children of Mecklenburg County.
Thank you, Mr. Palmer. Mr. Honeycutt.
First of all, I'd like to thank my fellow board members of who I served with for the nice card that I got while I was out having surgery. I appreciate that. It meant a lot that you all thought about me while I was out. I want the citizens of Mecklenburg County, I want the teachers, the students, the administrators to make no mistake that I think about every single one of you, not just on the eastern end of the county, but also on the western end of the county. Yes, I don't have any children. But it's important to me that we educate our children, because those are the generations that are going to take care of me in a few years. And I've been ridiculed by a few for showing my hand so soon, but that's okay. But I just want to thank the citizens of Mecklenburg County. I want to thank the students, the administration, all of our schools, the 5th District who I represent, who put me on this school board. And again, make no mistake that I take great pride in serving my county and my school. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Honeycutt. Mr. Nichols, do you have anything?
Thank you very much, Mr. Sturtevant. I also appreciate all the comments and the thoughts that are going into this. It's often been said by my counterpart on the Board of Supervisors, Mr. Carter, that he is responsible for making sure things are paid for. And I've often said it's my job to make sure that however things turn out, we're going to have the students get the best education possible. And I believe we're working on that. I have had many opportunities in the last few weeks to speak to various civic organizations and churches. I can assure you that during the summertime, we are perhaps even more busy than we are during the school year in many, many ways. But I'm happy to be able to continue to do that. And so if there are others that are interested, I'd like to open the doors for some opportunities to talk with, answer questions, and share. And I thank everyone for these opportunities.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols. I would like to thank the board for continually working well together, pushing through these things. We're in the business of education. It's not an easy answer, and it's going to be tough, but we're going to get through it. Do you have a motion to adjourn? Motion, Mr. Edwards, second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.